and then making naked salmon burgers at the same time. So.
Wow.
So one's supposed to like cross out the other as far as point wise.
They are actually both Weight Watchers.
Nice.
The chocolate cherry cupcakes are 3 points. They're a little mini cupcake.
Oh, nice though.
Let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking for my YouTube app on my iPad. So I am not planning on being the whole talkie-talkie in this particular group. So be prepared to, let me know what you think. Let all of us know what you think, your favorite things, the things you didn't like, the things you thought worked, the things you didn't think worked, whatever, as we're going through this, since we've got some distance on this series now, this first season now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let me see here. I need to get, there's that. Over here. All right, where's my live view stuff? It may not pop up. Sometimes it takes. Okay. Might be easier over here. So if I can get this working right, we can have people participate in 3 different ways. You can participate in here in the room, like we are, the ones of us who are on video. It should be broadcasting live on the YouTube channel so that people who don't want to be in the room here can watch the YouTube broadcast, and the chat room should be activated so that you can make comments. That runs about a minute behind the live. And then, this is live now. And then I need to do one more little thing to see if I can get the comment tracker inside this Hangout working. There's a couple of things I have to do to get it to. I got to turn the. Hang on. It's actually not a full minute behind. I gotta mute this. Okay. It doesn't look like the chat room is up and running. Now, poo. Well, excuse me. For now, people can comment on the YouTube, where you put comments underneath the videos that you see. You can stick comments in there, and I should be able to see those. Somehow I don't have the chat room turned on. Let's see. Thought I did. With this, and that. Open live chat in new window. That's why it's not on. That's evidently something I'm going to have to fix because it won't open the chat room.
Okay.
So I'll play with that.
So you have to do like before you start the...
Maybe, but
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it in the control room where to turn it on, but it may be something I have to set up on the page itself. Well, there it is, but it's saying that that stream is offline. We're not offline. Hmm. Oh, well, I don't want to waste time tonight trying to get that part figured out, so we'll do it this other way. Let me get back to my page. Okay, I'm watching myself make funny faces. So we are going to try and get through the first 3 episodes tonight of season 1. Just a quick kind of discussion, unless we get something that people really want to discuss in depth about these first 3 episodes. So anybody have anything they want to say before we get started? No. Again, I don't have anything organized for us guys, so
I ran them all today while I was doing stuff because I feel like I know them, but I don't.
Yeah, you feel like you know them because you know the book so well, and then you go back and watch the episode, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot they did that.
Yeah. So
I forgot how much information was really in that first episode. Because, they're doing a lot of voiceovering, but they're trying to give us so much background on Blackjack and, the whole thing. And I was like, wow, a lot of that just kind of sailed over my head the first time I watched that episode.
Yeah, there is a lot of exposition. And the first time I watched it, what I discovered was I didn't have a big problem. I don't remember having a big problem with the voiceover, the amount of voiceover being distracting to me when I watched it through the first time. But for some reason, this time, I was slightly annoyed by the amount of voiceover I was getting. And I mean, I'm one of those who wants all of that information from the book to get into the show as much as possible, which is really tough to do in these 42, 47 minute, whatever length they are.
Yeah.
Maybe like 50, 55 minutes. It's really tough to get all that info in there.
Yeah.
So, of course, we're talking about the first episode, which is Sassenach, which we all know starts. I did like the way they started. I mean, I love the opening scene with that particular voiceover. Just the vista of Scotland and that whole people disappear all the time. I love that whole thing. It's beautiful. And hearing that is, like I said, I love that, getting us into it. And then the fact that they cut to her in front of that shop.
Yes.
And I don't remember the first time if I noticed or paid attention to the fact of the 2 different colors. The fact that when she's standing in front of that shop window, looking in the vase, it's a blue and white vase, but then when the camera kind of pans to the side, you have kind of a gray scale on one side and then a more color scale on the other side. Did anybody else notice that? The stuff in the window was kind of grayscale when the camera was looking at her from the side.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I don't either.
Maybe it's me. Maybe I was just grayscaled. But yeah, and the fact that the colors, I didn't notice, and I also didn't notice the first time how the colors in 1945 were muted.
Yeah.
But I did especially notice when they jumped to her in the trenches, back at the field hospital, how that went all grainy.
Yes.
That look of kind of news footage type grainy stuff, which is like you might have gotten in the newsreels at that time. So I thought that was really interesting and a really interesting choice and helped kind of get us in that gritty feel of what probably the trenches were like, was being down in that muck and that dirt. And
yeah. That's true, yeah. That's true, yeah. The past stuff, or maybe it's really the present stuff, it always seemed more muted. than the 1743.
Yeah, and that they actually did. That's something when you listen to the commentary on some of that stuff. That was a specific thing they did in that 1945 is a lot more muted as far as the saturation, the color saturation.
Right.
And then when you suddenly get back into 1743 Scotland, all of a sudden those colors are bright and vibrant.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
for me, it was always symbolic of where Claire's true life was supposed to be.
Oh.
1945 was this kind of more muted, less exciting time, and then when she got back to 1743, suddenly there's all this vibrancy and some excitement, but just it felt like it was more alive. Like 1743 was more alive once she got back there.
Yeah, when you wouldn't expect it either, because you think that in 1743 color is only coming from natural sources. I don't know how much in 1946, 1945, probably a little less. So, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but as we go along, I think if you pay attention, you'll see, especially when we get to the Frank stuff, when they skip to Frank in 1945, or we get those little flashback things when she's thinking back to little scenes that she had. That's when you start to really notice that color change between the two time periods. And like I said, for me, it represented where her true place was.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's me. It could be, other people may have a different take on how that, what that represented to them and how that affected them.
I didn't notice that so much, but I did notice that she was always very stiff with Frank. Her mannerisms and everything. Of course, they've been apart for quite a while, but she's just very, very stiff, and she seemed more open and more herself in the 1740s.
Yeah, part of my thing, I always had big issues. Well, get a little bit of our head, but I always had the thought that after her stint in the Army as an Army field nurse, that trying to go back to being the Mrs. part of a couple, and that being her identity, was something she was never going to be happy and satisfied with. As much as she said she longed for a home. I mean, that was a big thing. She was longing for a home, a place to call her own, because she'd never had one before. I never felt like she would ever be happy and satisfied. I'm sorry, Corey, what did you say?
I was just going to say, yeah, she was going to have to go to be a housewife to this professor. There's no way she was going to be able to, that it would have lasted.
No.
Yeah, I think she would have chafed at the restrictions that she was going to have, what was expected of her, the fact that probably what she thought and her opinion wasn't going to be, considered valued or valid.
Yep.
In the academic world, because, here she was just this nurse.
Right.
So, but yeah, we got a lot of info in the first, the first 30 minutes, the first 20 minutes?
Yeah.
I think it's at least the first 30 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't she, 1945 is at least the first 30 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they crammed a ton of information in there.
Yeah.
So when I watched these episodes, I had not read the books yet. So I was one of the people that watched the show first. The first 7. Once that wedding episode, I went and bought all the. Okay, I'm all in. But so I was just casually watching it, and I have to say, on the first episode, without having read the books, I liked Frank.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was cute, charming, and then when I read the books, I was like, God, I mean, they made him so much better in the show.
Yeah, I think the show has done Frank a
huge service.
They've done, if you know the books, yeah, you go, oh no, but
Yeah.
really, the book is only her point of view anyway.
True.
So I think that I think Frank loved her. I think he really does, and I don't ever think he didn't love her.
Right. I agree with that.
I think that they really did a good job setting that up, and like we were saying about her not going to be a nurse, or I mean not going to be her own woman, I think he was already falling into that role in some ways.
Okay.
I think that was more his expectation of her. I mean, I'm also feeding into it what the 1945 values would have been.
Right.
The fact that that's what would have been expected. Well, it's what was expected in the U.S. You know, the women all went and worked in the factories while the men were off at war. But when the men came back,
Right.
the women were expected to go back home.
Right. It was probably no doubt the same in the UK and any women in in service too.
Hey, hey, Jerry.
Eight.
So I was just wanted. I was telling everybody that I haven't done a whole lot of organizing on this because I want everybody to participate. I didn't want to be the one running it.
Uh-huh.
So I don't have slides prepared. I mean, next week maybe I'll have a few pictures just to kind of give us some pretty. But I really wanted everybody to participate and just kind of move us for us to move organically through this stuff. And
Okay.
we're still talking about Sassenach, and we're basically talking about still the first 30 minutes about Claire and Frank and how we got all that information jam-packed into that first 30 minutes of the
Yeah.
first episode.
Okay.
And I said the voiceover started, it didn't bother me the first time, but for some reason, and this isn't just my second time watching it, obviously I've seen these episodes multiple times, but this time watching it, the amount of voiceover was starting to get on my nerves, and it may have been by the time I got to the third episode, I was like, enough already with the voiceover. So it may have been a cumulative effect.
Yeah. It didn't bother me too much, you know. I guess I don't know. I've watched it like maybe 3 times, 4 times. You know, it really didn't bother me, the amount of voiceover. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but I was fine with it. You know, you kind of block some of it out, you know.
Yeah. I'm going to get into some others that just some of it was just, I felt some of it was a little heavy-handed, but I think that maybe in the next, not the end of this episode, it may have been the end of the third episode. The end of the third episode where she actually said, I had to find a way out or die trying. Or was that at the end of the fourth episode?
I don't remember that in this one, but
I don't either.
It wasn't this one. It was either the end of Castle Leoch or the end of The Way Out. I don't remember it being the end of The Gathering.
Wasn't it at the end of The Way Out when the guy was singing in the hall?
yeah.
And he was singing a folk tale about a woman going through the stones, and Claire and Jamie's kind of interpreting it for her.
Yeah, and was that where she said, I have to find a way to get back to the stones or die trying?
I think so, something to that effect.
I think so.
The whole die trying thing for me was a little overly dramatic. But anyway, that's a little ahead of us. We were also discussing about the fact that we didn't think that Claire was ever going to be happy in the long term with Frank, and talking about the fact that just the way the production dealt with the color saturations between the two time periods, the fact that 1945 the colors seemed to be a lot more muted, and then once she got to 1743 suddenly everything was vibrant and alive. And I kind of said that I felt like that was kind of representing the fact that she didn't quite belong in 1945, that it was going to be a more drab, colorless existence for her, but in 1743, where her true place is, that's where the true life and vibrancy and urgency was going to be for her. So I said, that's, your mileage may vary, but that's kind of what I kind of took from it.
Yeah, see, I just looked at it as time period. I just looked at it post-war, and then the difference between modern day and the difference between, I think it was more of a delineation between the two, at least for me, that instead of where she belonged, I just think it was just any post-war when you look at anything that's post-war, and a lot of movies, they always mute the colors and everything. So I just looked at it that way.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like I said, I maybe was putting a whole lot more into it than just the typical, this is the way it would have looked here and this is the way it would have looked back here without the,
Right. Well, that, each person looks at it differently.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so cool is that everybody can kind of take their own thing from it.
Yeah. Oh,
so, and
I never thought she'd be happy with Frank anyway. I mean, that's just, character preference too.
Yeah. Well, and Corey was saying when she watched it the first time through the first 7 episodes of the book yet.
Uh-huh.
But that once they got to the wedding episode, she was like, okay, that's it. And she went and got the book. And she was saying the fact that when she was watching it the first time, she actually really liked Frank.
Yes.
And, you go ahead and say, again, Corey, just to kind of bring Jerry up.
Yeah, I was just saying that when I watched that episode, I thought Frank was cute and charming, and I liked him. And then once I started reading the books, I thought, wow, they really enhanced Frank a lot for the show, because he's kind of, much more of a non-entity in that book than he is in the show.
Well, I think she made him less appealing in the book, and
Agreed.
Tobias is a great actor, and he brought a lot to the character, I think, and that has to do something with it too, is the way he portrayed him. So, it's amazing how you can like him in one character and despise him so much as the other, and actually be able. That's a trait of a good actor. You can put that demarcation line there and go, wow, I hate him here, but I really kind of like him here, and I feel sorry for him. But, when it comes down to it, we always all wanted her with Jamie anyway. That's where she belonged.
Yeah, well, and one thing, the whole going back thing, I know they didn't want to do a whole big sci-fi flashing lights and going through the stone thing, but I just remember the vivid descriptions from the book about how terrifying it was, and I never felt like they got that into the show.
No, it was really just kind of like a whoosh, and then she was there. There was nothing. They didn't touch base on that at all, which they should. They should kind of do that somewhere when she goes. Maybe they'll play it up more when she goes back at the end of.
We don't want to spoil. I'm gonna say we don't want to.
Well,
I'm trying not to spoil next season for anybody who hasn't read the book.
Okay, has everybody read the book here?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as everybody's read the book, then we're okay. I'm sorry.
Well, plus remember the promos are out too, so.
Yeah.
We kind of know. I was surprised they did that, to go off topic.
I was surprised they did that too. I really was. When I saw that promo, I was like, wow, they're really giving it away.
Yeah.
Anybody know how many episodes are coming up this next season?
13.
13? Oh, so they cut 3. Okay.
Wow.
All right, that's a lot to cram a lot of information in, because that's a fat book.
Well, I thought when they did her time travel in the first show, in this show, I think that the reference to the car crash, I think they did that right. It's just later that they screwed up, I think, but they did that right, because that is how she described it in the book. And
Yeah.
I kind of accept. I guess Ron had said they just didn't want to go all sci-fi and.
All right, cutting up bad time, guys.
So I get that, but I think they messed it up later. But we can talk about it when we get to that episode.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Okay.
So that's my thoughts on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they did a good job describing like the free fall and the confusion and stuff like that. I appreciated that, because without that, if I hadn't read the books, I wouldn't have known kind of the turmoil of. I'd have just thought she touched the stones, fell down, woke up in another time period.
Yeah. But after watching it again, and something I think I had an issue too with the book part of it too, is that if she's so sensitive to it, why didn't she feel it in the morning? I think it was that was when they were dancing around it and drawing the spirits in. I just it's just one of those stupid things.
Oh,
Did it
you mean just kind of like why when they were observing all
Yeah, when she
the
and Frank are
witches
standing,
dancing? Yeah.
and she walks right past that stone, and it doesn't hum, it doesn't make any noise. And I think, well, what is going on?
Good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, that's
same
one
day.
thing that I kept wondering if it had to do with charging the stones and it not being quite the right day because, I mean, you're right. I missed a whole bunch of that. I've had to come in on my phone because my computer has frozen.
Ah,
I know. I'm
So,
looking at your face down there, like, whoa, going.
okay.
yeah,
Well, that's why.
my computer, yeah, see, my computer just dumped me out of the
Out.
call, so I'm hoping we don't lose the room.
It still says live on my screen.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
it says
know.
live on mine too.
But my whole computer system has frozen, so I was afraid to do anything for fear it would dump the whole
Right.
room out. So, yeah, and that's telling me that my page is now unresponsive. Maybe it's YouTube. I don't know.
It could be.
So anyway.
Did you update to El Capitan yet?
No.
No, don't.
Oh, really?
Don't. Yeah, I'm just telling you right now, don't unless you back up all your. Pardon me, I'm off topic right now, but anything that is right now they're having a glitch. Any external hard drive, if you update to El Capitan, when you log in, you can only read only. You can't transfer your information. If your pictures, everything like that, you couldn't information back and forth. So people are having a lot of trouble with that right now.
Ugh. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't planning on upgrading for a while, so.
Okay, so don't until they fix that glitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't know what all I missed, but it felt like I kind of came back in talking about her at the Stones and the whole time travel thing not being as dramatic and traumatic in the show as the book.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have a little bit of problem with that. I mean, I can understand where the production staff is coming from, the company's coming from, as far as not wanting it to be this sci-fi whatever. But yeah, I thought they kind of missed the boat there a little bit. There could have been a little bit more.
Yeah, they could have, and maybe they'll work on that when she goes back to Frank. Whoops, again. Well, it's in the
promo, yeah.
It's in the promo, yeah. So maybe they'll touch on that again in the future. Make a little something more of it. Kind of like going through a sliding glass door. There you are.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, look at Alice Through the Looking Glass. I mean, or Alice in Wonderland. There's a definite something there. So there has to be something there.
Well, this is telling me the video call ended because the computer went to sleep.
I don't know. We're still on
I was going to say, it still says we're live.
Yeah.
We're trying to see the broadcast, I think, is off.
We'll be live forever.
I hope so.
All our computers will be turned off and things will still be running.
Yeah, that's probably the way it would be.
Yeah, I have a feeling we have lost the feed on the YouTube channel. Well, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe it's still there. Maybe I can get this thing to come back in. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully I don't screw everything up. So yeah, there was all that information with Frank and all of the stuff with the Reverend Wakefield and trying to get all that information in. I mean, they got all that information in, but they also kept.
It shows that you just came back in.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I know.
Computer. Yep.
Hang on.
Yep.
Okay, I was going to have two things going. It was going to echo all over the place. They got all that info in, but one thing that I'm going to find annoying is the fact that they kept bringing all that info back up. In subsequent episodes, they kept flashing back to that and, hitting on it again and again that Frank said this, Reverend Wakefield said that, but these are little complaints, This is a lot of stuff I think that they were doing so that non-book readers would remember. careless watchers. There's so many careless watchers of TV these days who don't pay attention to a lot of stuff. Hang on, I want to turn off this little bird.
That would be me.
Yeah, I have a lot of.
So I think they're just trying to remind people, remember this. We showed you this in that first episode, and they already knew this, and that's how she knows that. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, she goes back in time, and suddenly she's in the midst of, they pretty much pulled that, once she got into 1743, they pulled that whole scene almost directly from the book. The whole thinking that she gotten somehow in the middle of a movie set or whatever, and I love the music in that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
With all the, the redcoats and the Scots and the fire and the gunfire and all that, because I love that the way Bear wrote that music, that score underneath of it.
Mm-hmm. Can we, before we get to that, can we go back and talk about the symbolism, or what y'all are going to think about the symbolism with Jamie, or with the Scotsman showing up that night during the storm when Frank walked up on him?
Oh, we can try, but I think it's all speculation on everybody's part about, although I do think Diana has said that was Jamie's ghost.
Yeah, she does say that, but she says she won't reveal what it is till the last book.
Yeah.
That is just...
And we'll all be dead by the time she's done with the last book.
The odds are good.
So I think she's older than all of us.
She's older than all of us.
I'm just worried she's going to die before she finishes the
Wait a minute. Is she older than me?
She's 60-something, yeah.
Oh, okay, then she is older than me. Okay, good.
Well, she evidently has written the last chapter because she's shown it to Ron, Meryl, and Sam.
That's right.
So the last chapter has been written.
Right, but there could be 10 books in between now and the last chapter. It doesn't make any difference. These people live forever.
Well, her son's a writer, so maybe he knows the outline too.
Oh,
or how it's supposed to go.
Take over.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that's the reason she has slowed down the time passage in each subsequent book, is because she doesn't want to have to kill her characters off.
Right. No.
Just because of aging. I mean, I fully believe that's why that last book covered what? It felt like it covered a week.
I know.
Yeah.
It was like 1,000 pages long and covered a week.
Yeah, and the first one covered how many years? I mean, and then you get into Dragonfly, and it's like, wait a minute, Brianna's how old?
Yeah.
It was crazy. It just went so fast, and it's like, oh, she shouldn't have been gone from him that long,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Melissa, I don't know. I know that Diana has said that is Jamie's ghost, but I don't know. I think everybody has kind of their own theory about what he's doing there. If he's just wandering, waiting for her to come back to him.
It just gives me goosebumps. Like every time I watch it, that scene just absolutely gives me goosebumps. And then I really take issue with Frank when he goes upstairs and kind of questions her if she had been unfaithful to him. And then he kept almost excusing it, like it's okay if you had, it's okay if you had. And knowing from the books his habits,
his proclivities later on.
It makes me wonder if he had been doing that all along.
The whole time when I read the book that, he is trying to get her to admit it so that he doesn't feel guilty anymore.
Yes,
exactly. That was my immediate thought when he brought that whole thing up.
Well, they were separated for 5 years, for the most part, over those 5 years of the war. So yeah, he's trying to tell her, I understand, and if it was, and all of that, and so, but that the landlady there had said that the ghosts walk on All Hallows, so that's kind of part of when he thought he saw a ghost and he wasn't sure he hadn't. That was interesting, even not reading it the first time. Like, what's that all about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like, if you put yourself in Jamie's mind. He's looking up at her the very day before he actually sees her, or maybe 2 days before he actually sees her. And you wonder, like, how much during their lifetime that she has talked about
Well,
too.
Ghost,
Mm-hmm.
then he's, yeah, I mean, you link it all together that if he's Jamie's ghost, then he's gone. He's lived the life that they had together. So it's not
To me, it's the whole. To me, time is a circle.
right.
You know, it's a continuous loop circle. So, and my whole thing is that she's always gone back in every time frame. She has always gone back, and what she does when she goes back is what causes the things to happen. That no matter what she thinks she's doing, she's always gone back, which we talked about when we were talking about the book discussion for Dragonfly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just him on his loop, waiting for her, knowing that it's the time she's going to come back and they're going to start their loop again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the way I view it. But like I said, there's all sorts of theories and speculations about that ghost and why that ghost is there and what it means, and so we just have to
wait
a few more years, more decades.
a decade
Yeah.
or two. Just promise me, Angie, if I'm too old and I'm dribbling, you will read it to me. Come to the home and read it to me.
Well, hell, I could start the whole series over because you'll won't remember anything.
Oh, jeez. There's that. No, I'm sure, you know, my mom's 87 and she's like, when is that damn show coming back on television? She's read it like 3 or 4 times in the last year.
Yeah.
Since I got her the first book, you know, yeah. So, you know, she sits up all night reading and then sleeps all day. So, yeah. Hopefully I would remember that. I might not remember who my husband was, but I'll remember fictional characters. And Dave.
Yeah, there you go.
Dave.
But anyway, she gets back into the past, immediately, you know, ends up running into Randall, Blackjack, and boy, they didn't waste any time letting us know that he's not a good guy, that this is our villain.
Right.
But that was pretty much the way it was in the book. I mean, as far as the fact that he immediately became this aggressive ass, you know. So, and then Murtaugh, that first introduction to Murtaugh, I love Murtaugh.
I love Murtaugh.
I dread subsequent seasons because I know what's coming.
Yeah, I know. I love Murtaugh.
But I didn't really love him in the book because he seemed like that first book, I don't feel like he was given much of a personality. Other than this kind of taciturn, mostly mute presence. I mean, he was more of a presence than
an observer.
Yeah, well, like he was Jamie's shadow, basically. So wherever Jamie was, he was going to be. But they fleshed him out so much more in the series, which I love. Yeah, I love Duncan LaCroix, and I love the way that they've kind of fleshed that character out. And then I remember watching this the first time. I had issues with Katrina's portrayal of Claire in this first episode, the first couple of episodes.
She was a little shrewish.
Yeah, and awfully. Yeah. She was just the one emotion I got from her all the time was being pissed off. You know, that seemed to be her. That seemed to be her emotional arc, was calm and quiet or pissed off. I didn't get a whole lot in between there, and like the first, it took until it may have been Garrison Commander.
Wow.
Because even in Rent, she seemed a little shrill and pissed off a lot of the time.
Had you read the books first, Angie?
I missed the live broadcast of the first half of the season.
Okay.
So I came into it during Outlander, and then I read all 8 books in January.
Okay.
And then the show started back up again in what, April?
April, yeah.
So yeah, I had read Outlander before the show started, but before it started, I had watched all 8 episodes of the first half. So I had read the book. I'd read all the books before I watched the show itself.
Okay. I think that kind of can inform your feeling of how how you interpreted Claire too, because you had the book Claire versus the TV Claire, where I only had the TV Claire when I started watching it.
Yeah.
And I liked her a
Did you
lot.
think she had more emotional range than, calm, quiet to pissed off?
Yeah, sometimes, you often wondered, what did Jamie actually see in her? Because there was no middle ground. Like you said, I always found that she was kind of bitchy.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought, was that she's awfully bitchy.
Yeah.
I don't know what endeared her to him.
The boobs, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
Except that the actress they have playing this short buxom
Woman doesn't
woman
have boobs.
is,
Ugh.
model thin with
Yeah.
fairly flat chest.
Although, man, those corsets and stuff, they can sure make her look like she's got boobalas, I'll tell
I
you.
know.
Yeah.
And it's funny because she's like hanging out, but if you look around the room at everyone else, they all have like scarves and shawls covering theirs.
Yeah.
Her just like, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, you're right. Here. The puppies are out to play.
Yeah, so, Murtaugh getting her back to I love meeting the Klansmen in that little shack.
Mm-hmm.
And what I remember from the book is that I knew the first time I read it, I knew there was supposed to be this hot Scotsman that became, the main character. But the way she wrote it, Jamie was such a marginalized character there at the beginning that he was just another one of the Klansmen. And the way she described him was as a boy.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me until, I don't know, reading the book, it took me a while to realize, oh, this is Jamie. This is Jamie.
He's the guy.
This is the guy?
Yeah.
This is the guy? Really?
I will give them credit, and I thought about it now, having seen it all. Looking back at these again, he does look very, very young with the short hair.
Yes.
Yeah, he does. As he gets older. Yeah.
So when they're at the fire and the way they have him lit, he looks so young. And I thought, as much as I didn't like it when I saw it, knowing the book, I thought now I'm thinking, wow, they really shot that well, because he looked like he was 20. In those the way they lit him, the way they shot it, and maybe the shorter hair, it really helped. It softened his face so much. Because to me, he's too chiseled. From book to screen, the actor is too chiseled. He's gorgeous, but he's not physically what I would have expected. But that's just me.
Yeah, well, because the description in the book is a much leaner, lankier,
Yeah.
Right.
taller, because Jamie's almost between 6'4" and 6'5" in the book.
Yeah.
Something like that. And he's a handsome guy, but to me, he's too pretty. I've always said that.
I don't
Sam
think
is
so.
pretty.
I'll disagree there.
What?
Well, I'm not complaining about how pretty he is.
No.
He's doing a great job, but he's too cut. Because he's trying to be bulky when he's probably naturally not that bulky.
He's not.
He's not. He's
not. He's
a
very
distance
slender.
runner. Yeah, he's a distance runner, so he's that lean,
Yeah. But
stringy
for
muscle.
some reason, they seem to think that he needs to look like Conan the Barbarian when he probably doesn't, because even Diane says he's more like a basketball player.
Yeah.
All
I
I can
just
say
kept
is
thinking.
that, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm just making commentary here saying that I'm sorry, anybody that looks like Sam would not have been a virgin at that age. I'm sorry. No way. No way in hell, no.
Well, one of the things that they took out of the show that was in the book was the strength of Jamie's faith.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jamie is a very devout Catholic.
Yep.
So, and that's much, much less prevalent in the TV show, which, I don't know, I miss it a little bit, but
Oops, sorry.
it's okay.
It's okay. We all have them. And
I'm
mine is
I'm surprised
hearing in the
mine are
background
over
making
here
noise, going, what's
sleeping.
going on here?
Dogs are so routine oriented because it's like they know it's 10 o'clock. That's usually when I start heading upstairs, so they're
Oh,
barking.
it is that time, isn't it?
Hmm.
Hey, you're supposed to be hanging out right now.
Annie is looking at the back door. She's like, where is that noise coming from?
Yeah, well, if I didn't have my earphones in, muting the noise just into my ears, mine would be nuts because they're laying right here on the floor in their beds, and they would be barking all over the place. But anyway.
No, what I was going to say is, I just kept going back and thinking, Jamie in particular, out of all of the people or all of the men, at least in the 1700s, looked very nutritionally sound. Maybe that's the nurse part of me, but I'm like, dang, he looks like he's been getting his vitamins.
Pretty healthy.
Yeah, he looks really healthy. Yeah, he does.
Just been eating oatmeal
Stinky
and
but
Spanish.
healthy. Yeah, stinky but healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say
He and Dougal both.
Yeah, the diet at that time was basically grain and meat.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So yeah.
You know. So yeah, well, I mean, I won't quibble about that because I'm not sure I could spend 16 hours watching malnourished people with teeth that have fallen out of their head, you know. Because very few people had a full set of teeth by the time they were 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were middle-aged at 23.
Yeah. Well, and the lack of vitamins and
Yep.
vitamin C and all that stuff. The only thing they would have been probably pretty good in might have been vitamin D, and that would have had to been gotten from the sun.
Right. Unless, of course, you were part of a noble or like a laird's family, because then they tended to eat a little bit better and they had, higher quality things. That's why, you did still have some kings and queens that lived into their 60s and 70s because of the fact that they were, they had their medical people and everything else too, for what it was back in that time frame. It's not like he was a peasant,
Yeah.
So so that would it just depends, but on the whole, yes, most of those people would not be in such good shape.
No.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, the whole second half of that episode was her tending him and giving us some of that interaction of, showing us Nurse Claire, how she could be valuable in the 1740s. Basically, I think that's what that whole thing was, to show us that she was going to have value to the clan of that time.
Right.
And then getting them back, but the suspicion of being able to, of knowing that Cocknanum Rock, there might be, redcoats there doing ambushes, so, that was, and the whole, him dumping her off the horse and then coming back to her, I mean, I kind of like that whole, but again, that whole interaction, she was so strident in the show, just so, I don't know, that.
Yep.
Bitchy.
Yeah, pretty
Bitchy.
much.
Mm-hmm.
She's being a modern woman. She, for what it was, she would have she would behave like she has an equal say. And I think that at some point there's that comment about when she speaks to Black Jack, she speaks to him like she's talking to Frank, and yet she because she sees, that's who she sees. I mean, she knows it's not Frank, but she tries to deal with him on a one-to-one like she would with Frank, and it's not really working for her because those are men of that era. They're not modern men, so they're not going to accept her. So I think she struggles with that, and that's something that he says to her too about minding a man when he sits her down by the kitchen while he goes and gets a cup of ale after he brings her back from seeing the little boy the first time, and says that's how you're supposed to do it, mind men, or do what a man says or something. And she kind of just does a little eye roll thing about it.
Yeah, well, my whole thing, it's not so much that the gender roles and the time period things. Mine was more Katrina's portrayal of Claire.
Oh, okay.
Again, her whole emotional arc for me was very flat, or it was this and then this. It wasn't this, nice curve arc of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I got calm Claire and I got pissed off bitchy Claire, and very little in between in her performance of it. And that's why I think I even posted somewhere after I'd watched the first 3 episodes or so. I think I posted somewhere that I was having trouble with her portrayal of it, and I just found her to be, kind of
I think you did too.
pissed off all the time. That's what I got, was basically pissed off all the time.
It reminded me of Taming of the Shrew. It's just the character portrayal. It reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Kate.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's the way it was written, what was on the page more, but I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot of subtlety to her character arc, her emotional arc.
She's gotten better.
Yeah, much better.
Much better, yes.
So it may have been the fact that once she got started and was able to have a little more time with the material, because I think they started filming 3 weeks after she was cast.
Yeah.
So, being thrown in there and trying to figure out what to do with this character in 3 weeks was probably a pretty big deal. But so anyway, they got to Castle Leoch in the mud and the muck, and that was that big voiceover at the end saying she knew she wasn't something. I can't remember the exact wording, but again, I've become less enamored of the cliffish hanger endings and the voiceovers to go along with them, just as a personal preference as far as how my story is being told to me.
What are you going to do this next season? Because it's going to be loaded with.
Oh, I don't know.
I'll
complain.
Yeah, you'll go bitch.
I'll complain about it. Yeah.
Just get through this next season.
Yeah. So then we ended up with Castle Leoch, which was our first introduction to Mrs. Fitz, who I love.
Mm-hmm.
I love
Mrs.
Fitz.
Casting.
She's terrific. Introduction to Column.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I'm doing too much talking. So, and that's, again, I had a little trouble with some of the character casting to begin with, because I was so locked into my head about what the Mackenzie brothers were supposed to look like in my head, because Dougal does not look at all like he's described in the book.
No, not at all.
Because I think he's thin and blonde, isn't he?
He's like auburn haired. He's
more like Jamie, I think.
Maybe, yeah.
not
I just remember it being totally different, and then I remember thinking of them as being younger than they are portrayed in the show. So that was a little surprising to me and it took me a little bit to get used to it. But love Gary Lewis.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I said, I love Mrs. Fitz. I love her whole "we'll find you something more to wear." So, and her kind of being this maternal mother figure, basically Claire convincing her, saying that, no, Jamie needs to not be relegated to the barn. He needs to come in because he's been hurt, and, him actually listening to Mrs. Fitz saying, "Oh, all right." And going in, and then they gave us our first. Was that kind of our first shirtless scene for him?
right. Yeah, in front of the fire.
Yeah, they didn't waste any time of putting the pretty on the screen.
They did. I hate Leary.
Yeah.
The girl that is playing her just bothers me. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know what her name is. Yeah, she
No.
just bothers me. She's just got like that pinched face look. It's like you look at her and yeah, she's supposed to be that way in the book. But not just. I don't know. There's something about her. She just bugs me.
I thought they would make her prettier.
Yeah, me too. Because he's apparently been infatuated with her before, and this one just, I don't know, she looks like she's got something stuck up her nose or something. I don't know what it is, but she just,
Yeah.
I don't like her. I don't like her.
Well, But doesn't he kind of blow her off? I didn't think he even noticed her before. I thought he says in the third episode, he says he doesn't remember her as a child at the castle. She remembers him. She had a crush on him.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
but
don't
then
think
they're making out in the hallway
Oh,
too,
he could take advantage of a blonde that cornered him in the hall. That's all.
Yeah. No, yeah, no. I think I don't know.
I don't
think
think
someone better.
before. I think. Yeah.
So yeah, well, I mean,
Wait a minute, excuse me. I don't think that he would have taken that punishment for her if there wasn't a little something there.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe.
What guy in his right mind, if he wasn't going, this is just a little piece of tail over here, I can, smooch a little bit in the corner, is going to get the shit beat out of him when he's had an injury already. Just be an upstanding young man? No, there's a little bit of dick thinking in there, I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe, except I think I can't remember if it was this section of the book, but there was a whole thing when Jamie had that experience of sitting in the hall and having been punished in front of everybody when he was her age or maybe 2 years younger. Seems like, didn't he have something happen to him at 14 where he was punished in front of everybody and had to sit up at the front in front of everybody after he had been punished? Because he talked about how it would have affected her emotionally, been humiliated up there. But we didn't get it in the show. So, I mean, that's...
Yeah.
And again, that's the book informing my opinion of what's happening. So, and I can't remember if we get that story in the book in this section or if we get it later.
It mentions it, yeah, because he does say she would have been shamed.
Yeah, well, he does say that too, but I still don't think, in my opinion, unless there was some kind of attraction there, I don't think he would have done it. He's a guy, and he can't be that noble.
Well, except he's the king of men.
Well, yeah. If such a thing exists. Yeah.
So, but we get that little scene between Colum and Claire after the whole undressing and redressing scene with Mrs. Fitz and Claire, which I thought was really kind of cool. The whole outfitting Claire in 18th century garb. I actually liked the way they did that to kind of show us what was involved in getting dressed every day.
Yep.
Yeah, it was kind of a change into for her, it was showing her switch over from being in the 40s to being in this time period. It was a whole, not just the clothing change, it was a whole persona kind of change.
Basically shedding 1945 and donning 1743.
Yep.
Yeah.
Both literally and symbolically.
Yep.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if Miss Fitz kept her bra. She looked at it like it was something from another planet, as it was anyway, and then she accepted it readily when Claire told her it was from France.
Oh, those crazy French, they do everything.
Yeah.
They were the crazy French.
Was it in the book or was it in the deleted scenes? I think it was the deleted scenes where she looked at it even closer and talked about the fine stitches. The tiny fine stitches that were taken in that bra. I think it was in the deleted scenes. So, because I'm thinking, that machine stitching, I'm sure she was absolutely blown away by the machine stitching.
Sure, the straight lines and everything of that. It's like,
and perfectly,
something like this by hand. Yeah.
Perfectly symmetrical and, identical, everything the same size, and
So. Same on the back as the front.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just stepping away for a minute to get my charging plug. I'll be right back.
That's fine. And then that scene between Colum and Claire in Colum's office with her, trying to figure out what time frame she's in, and so I'm not sure I really like that I don't know. I guess it was a choice they had to make, but I love the fact that in the book Claire had that glass face.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't hide anything. She couldn't lie. She couldn't hide anything. They always knew what she was thinking. And they have done, not just taken it away, they've done a complete about-face in the fact that they have made her this really good, calm, collected, cool liar. So they've taken a really wonderful heroine from the books and made her almost a super heroine in the show. You know?
True.
They've added so much more to that character. They've made her an even, I don't know. There are aspects of Book Claire I like a lot more. I'm not sure how how thrilled I am with how seemingly perfect they've made TV Claire. You know.
But even from the book, does Claire ever acknowledge that she's got that glass face until Jamie points it out to her? She just thinks she's going on about her life. You know, she coolly said what she needed to say to Colum, and she said it to Dougal, and no one seems to. I mean, from her perspective, she doesn't think she's getting caught out until she gets drunk at the dinner.
Yeah.
You know, wine. So until it's actually pointed out to her by Jamie at some point in the story, in the book story. So maybe they're just not going to go with that fine nuance of her, you know, not being able to be deceitful easily. Because she even says, I know in the book she says she can if she's got some preparation. You know, she knows how to lock up her face or whatever.
I don't know. I miss that aspect of her character.
Yeah.
In the show. I mean, there's several things that I miss from the show. Not that I don't love the show.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those annoying book readers who's like, I wish they'd done this, and I wish this had come in, and there are certain lines and scenes that I hugely miss.
Yeah.
In the show. But so we got through that meeting with Colum, and then I can't remember what came next. Was that her watching Dougal and Hamish?
Yeah, she's out on that walkway with that gorgeous shot
Yeah.
across the cloudy hills there. Oh my God.
Yeah, there's a lot of Scotland porn.
Yes, definitely.
In this.
Can't wait to go. I can't wait to go.
Shush.
I know.
Yeah, there's a lot of Scotland scenery porn in this first half of this season.
Those shots they got in Glencoe where they're driving down the road, and I guess Ron said it was Glencoe. When I saw Glencoe, it was raining.
Yeah.
It was quite atmospheric, but that was so beautiful to see that. Like, wow, I missed that. Only I didn't really. I mean, I got to see the other side. But.
Yeah. So anyway, that's that. And then is the next thing the big dinner?
Yeah.
Yeah. She makes that big faux pas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole getting drunk and continuing to go on with her story and answer questions, and Colum basically using that interrogation technique of get the questionee drunk and see what holds up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, which I actually liked that scene, that whole dinner scene. So, and was that our first introduction to Letitia?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't see her much, but I was listening to somebody's commentary podcast. It may have been Scott and Sassenach, where they talked about how we don't get much of Letitia, but what we do get from that actress, there's so much presence in that actress. To kind of, the short shots she's in, there's a lot of presence in that actress embodying that character. So.
I think she's really pretty, too.
She is.
Yeah.
I love Gellis. I'm sorry, I love her.
I had so much trouble with this portrayal in the first couple episodes when we got her. I was like, what the hell is she doing?
Yeah, she annoys me, actually.
Oh, no, I love her. I loved her from the first time I saw. What was the first thing I remember seeing her in was Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, see, I wasn't familiar with her at all.
The movie Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp. She's in that?
Yeah, she is.
Who is she in that?
She's in that?
She's the witch.
In the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're not talking about the TV show, because I don't think
No,
that's...
we're talking about the movie. We're talking about the movie, Johnny.
Now I have to watch Sleepy Hollow again.
Damn.
Darn it!
It's blah, blah,
What a
blah,
chore.
blah.
A chore, Johnny Depp. Yeah, it's a chore.
Yeah.
One of my favorites of his. I love his Ichabod.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
Ichabod Crane, and when he faints, he's so good when he faints.
Yeah.
I swear. Well, I love him in anything. You know me.
Yeah. But yeah, I had a little. That was my reaction to Galus was, what the hell is she doing? As far as the portrayal.
Yeah.
But then it took me a couple episodes to kind of get it.
Mark.
And go, okay. I mean, because I knew where she was coming from. I knew the fact that, she was a traveler and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
When I was watching the show, but I was just kind of like, this is not at all how I saw this character. This is just weird. That was my whole thing. Was she was just weird.
Yeah, for me it's different because I think the last time I actually read Outlander, maybe it's about 8 years ago, since I actually read again. I mean, since I started way back at the beginning, and it's so big. I've gone back and reread, So I've read each one as it's come out, and then it's kind of like, okay, it's over there. So.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I was really fresh, not quite as fresh as Corey.
Yeah.
Well, no, we were probably about the same. If you read Outlander during Droughtlander,
Yep.
we were probably pretty close because I read, like I said, I read all 8 before the show
You just
came
did
out.
it a little bit faster than I did.
Yeah. Well, I had an entire month where we had no patience at all at work, so I spent
on mute too.
I spent 12 hours, 3 nights a week reading.
Yeah, you can read a lot. I used to read a book like that. I think when I got Outlander, when I originally got it and read it, I think I read it in a day and a half because I was young, and I just stayed up all night reading.
Yeah, and I had the audio version, so my hour and a half drive in between, I would listen.
Oh,
so, yeah, I'm actually a pretty big fan of Davina Porter. It took me a little bit to get used to it, but after the first book into the second book, I got to be a big fan of her narration.
I do not like her.
Oh, really?
No. I downloaded the second book, the audio, so because I was driving more at that time, and I just couldn't get past her voice. I felt like she just smoked like a billion packs of cigarettes.
Really? I didn't get that at all from
This is very deep and gruff to me. I don't know.
Now, see, that reminds me of Sylvia Sidney in Beetlejuice, then, when you're saying she sounds like she smoked a million cigarettes.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't get her at all like that. But anyway, where were we?
A little bit here and a little bit there. We had gotten through the dinner party, and then...
Oh, and then she's her sleeping through breakfast the next day and then going out to Jamie. This is the first time she interacts with Jamie since she first dressed those wounds, where she takes lunch out to him and changes his bandages.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another big complaint I had was the little amount of time the two of them had together on screen.
Yes.
And then suddenly we got to, when we get to episode 7, suddenly there's this, amazing attraction that was always there, and I was kind of like, when did that develop?
And they didn't have that humor. Like, they had a lot of humor, rapport between them that was not there at all.
Yeah, because of the fact that, again, in the book, she spent a lot more time in the barn, in the stables.
Yeah, that's true.
Visiting and talking to him. So that was Katrina's portrayal with either calm or bitchy, and the fact that we lost so much of that slow relationship development between the two of them, between episode, half of episode 1 and episode 7. It was just like, if I had not, I'm not sure, I can't tell, I'm not sure if I hadn't read the book, if I would have thought there was enough. that was the book influencing me, knowing there was so much more going on?
Well, I did not read the book, right? So I loved them together and I liked it, but once I read the book, it was like, wow, that was much better than what I saw. But I
Yeah.
did enjoy what I saw. I mean, I wasn't overthinking it though either, because I was like, well, I was watching the show casually at first. I wasn't
Right.
crazy like I am now, but um,
From one obsession to another. Yeah.
exactly. What's one more?
What's it?
Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of my one of my complaints about this episode was the fact that I felt like there should have been a lot more of Jamie and Claire, at least just a lot more casual time spent together.
Yeah.
So.
It seems like what is it? The second or the third episode? Third episode where they're at
That's the third episode.
gathering. Yeah, the gathering.
Yeah.
And then they're
The Gathering
sitting
is the
together
fourth
and they
episode.
start to really.
The Gathering, yeah, no. I thought you were going to say the Courtyard, because they get that little conversation in the third episode.
Yeah, and there's what is it now? I didn't watch 4 episodes yesterday.
Well,
But
and
they're
this,
sitting
as
at
I
the-
said, this episode is where Claire thinks she's leaving, right?
Yeah.
She thinks she's going to be going with the Tinker, and so that's what her preparation is. And basically, the big climax of this episode was Colum deciding that she was going to stay and be their healer,
Mm-hmm.
and her being followed. I loved Rupert following her. Oh my God, I love Rupert.
He is so funny. So different. See, those are 2 characters, Rupert and what's his face?
And Angus.
Angus. Yeah, that they fleshed out more in the series than they did in the books.
Yeah, they were such minor characters. I
Yeah.
don't even remember them from the book.
Yeah. Now they're like the Laurel and Hardy of Outlander. They really are.
Yeah, well, they gave us. I mean, I guess they needed to give us more Klansmen besides just Colum and Dougal to get a sense of the Mackenzies. So, which is great. I mean, like I said, I love those 2 characters, and then they give us Willie, a little bit later, and I absolutely adore Willie. So, I mean, like I said, yeah, I'm a huge fan of how they fleshed out those 2 characters.
Yeah, me too.
So, and his whole speech about, better him than Angus because of the fact that Angus is a lover of wee beasties or something like that. I love that whole thing. So, and then, her finding out that and being taken. I also loved the whole flashback where it kept coming back and forth when, was it Dougal who was leading her down into that room where she and Frank went to. I loved that cutting back and forth between her and Frank walking down that hallway and then her following Dougal down that hallway. I loved that whole back and forth. That was one of those things where I actually loved the kind of flashing back and forth, how that one was working.
Yeah, that did work out really well. And it would be weird. It would be really weird to have that perception of I've been here before and this is what it was really like, and they were trying to determine what was actually happening in that room when she and Frank were there, and then and then of course her and Frank doing it on the table there. It's like, I mean, like, it would be very strange.
Well, the whole thought process of the fact that, oh, I've already been here, but then no, actually I haven't been here yet because that takes place in 203 years.
Right.
So has it happened, or did it really happen? Am I remembering it right? So yeah, it's one of those time travel things that can start your brain spinning.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you think about it too much, it'll make you nuts.
Yeah. I'll be right back because that's the bathroom call.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go, girls. Come on, let's go. Come on.
So that was kind of that big ending thing for, Castle Leoch. Was her finding out that no, she's not going with the Tinker. She's being kept there to be the healer, and also because they don't trust her. They don't want her out wandering around.
She could have got away if she hadn't gotten into that spat with Dougal. Until she clued him in, and Colin was going to let her go, and he probably would have. I think Dougal's the one that put a stop to that. I mean, they don't say it that way, but I think I don't believe Colin. I mean, he may have suspected her, but he wasn't that concerned. Send her on her.
No, I think Colin was more concerned. Colin's a lot more wily than he actually lets on.
Oh, no, I'm not. I guess I didn't mean it like that, but
Colum is the one who has to be the most suspicious because his whole thing is protecting the entire clan and not just being, the protector and the warrior. He's having to think politically as well as, feeding everybody, making sure the estate stays healthy and keeping them protected, but also keeping good relations with the English so the English aren't, not necessarily good relations, but not antagonizing the English so that they're always having to worry about them. So, yeah, I mean, Colum is the brain of that whole thing. So I don't think anything would have gotten past Colum. I don't think he trusted Claire from the time she sat down and started spinning that yarn to him about,
Oh yeah, that's true. She's
why she was where she was, dressed the way she was.
right.
So yeah, I mean, I think it was
Maybe the dinner just kind of set that too. But that was after she talked to him the first time.
yeah, because he continued to say, where's your family from and where are you going in France? Isn't that a nice area? Trying to trip her up,
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, I don't think he has ever truly trusted her. But knowing the fact that she seemed to be a good healer and had knowledge of that, just gave him the good excuse to be able to keep her. And the fact that the clan no longer had a healer.
Right.
So you guys will have to clue me in on the way out because a lot of this I don't remember.
I'm going to head out, but I want to tell you my favorite part in that episode.
Okay.
And I didn't notice this the first time I watched it, but I noticed it on the many, many rewatches. When I guess they're in Gillis's house where Jamie met her. And when he walks in, he's like, "Hey, Mrs. Duncan," and then when he looks at her, he's like, "Mrs. Beecham," and he like changes his voice into this like sexy deep voice. And then if you watch him the entire time, the way he looks at her is crazy. Like he's already giving her the those smoldering eyes, and I did not notice that the first time. So if you ever watch that episode again, go back to that one part, and he's just staring at her like it's really kind of hot.
Wait a minute. Who's this?
She's talking about. We're talking about the way out, and she's going to have to go. So she's saying her favorite part of it. The favorite scene was when Jamie came to get Claire from when she was visiting Galus. And how his whole demeanor and voice changed from talking to Galus, hello, Mrs. Duncan, and then when he turned to look at Claire, she said his voice got much deeper and
horny fun. Yeah.
Yeah, Mrs. Beecham when it got lower and so that's not. I did not notice that. I'll have to go back and watch it again.
Go back and watch that. Yeah.
Yes, go watch it for research purposes, please.
Well, I will say that. I think it'll make us appreciate Sam's performance even more if rewatching this stuff again, because he is the true book reader. I mean, he's dedicated to book Jamie and trying to bring as much book Jamie into his performance in these little subtle ways. He's got the finger tap that Jamie has, and there's just some things that he's brought from the book that aren't obvious. It's not like he's, but they're definitely callbacks to book Jamie to bring that character as much on screen as he can. So I'm sure that's the way he looks at her in that particular episode, in that particular scene, is his way of, letting us know that Jamie's already very interested in her, finds her very attractive, and there's an attraction starting. So I will definitely go back and watch that again if I must.
Enjoy.
So next week, Corey, we're just doing the next two. So 4 and 5, which is Rent and it's the Gathering and Rent.
Okay.
So all
right.
Have a great week.
Bye, Corey.
Bye.
Bye, Corey.
Say hi to Connecticut for me.
So
I
yeah,
enjoyed.
remind me how the way out started again. Again, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
He's healing everybody in the castle, and Angus and Rupert are watching her. And she's going through all the medicine in the cabinet and everything. I just watched it like an hour ago. 2 hours.
And that's when she's opening jars and sniffing them and
Yeah, wood lice.
Pulling the wood lice all over her hand.
yeah. So yeah, and again, Rupert and Angus. I love Rupert and Angus.
Yeah.
Me too.
Excuse me, you guys keep talking. I've got to go refill my water.
That's okay.
When,
I'm going for the episode now. I want to watch this. I'm like, okay, I pulled the TV up now. I'm like, okay, where is it?
Yeah.
Episode.
Then I guess she learns that the one boy has died.
Mm-hmm.
The column's mate.
McNeil. The little McNeil kid, yeah.
So he's died, and she didn't know about it. No one told her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I liked the scene where her and Jamie went to the Black Kirk, where he took her up there. I enjoyed that.
About the wood garlic, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's nice. Mm-hmm.
Well, and
really was good for his
that's when we first learned that he had been tutored and, knew some Greek and Latin and, had a little bit of a formal education.
Right. Yeah, it really added to his character more because, we see a lot of him. Really, I mean, he's just that good-looking guy taken care of.
So what were we? I'm sorry, what we were talking about?
We were talking about going to the Kirk.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's one of the things I miss from the book is the fact that Jamie is very well educated.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Highly educated. He's been to university. He's traveled. Speaks multiple languages.
Yeah.
And it's not as front and center.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna show up this next season with them in France. I think he's gonna be the polished penny when we see him this time.
From the pictures I've seen,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They prettied him up even more in France. Holy crap!
Oh, the wardrobe is incredible. When I saw the red dress, I was like, holy shit. The shoes. I was dying over the shoes going, I want the shoes. And I was trying to see, I'm looking at the shoes and I'm tilting my head like this, looking at the picture going, do they have patents on her? Thinking, the costumer in me is coming out and I'm going, period. Okay, if she's got satin shoes on, they have to have wooden patents on her in order to lift her up so her shoes don't get dirty, and I'm like, do they have those on there? But I mean, just the costuming this next season is going to be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and so he'll I think the well-educated Jamie will shine through at that time, and maybe they were doing that to make that different point again, going from the first season then jumping into the second book, so that people that aren't used to the characters already are going to go, wow, where did this guy come from? It might be one of those kind of things.
And they did try. I mean, there's some deleted scenes from the second half of the season that definitely showed Jamie in a more refined light as far as the political mind that he's got, as far as being able to maneuver and. Because actually, I think it's episode 9. Because I think that's what I noticed because I was listening to the commentary on episode 9 in the deleted scenes, because TSATs did a commentary for the extended version of The Reckoning, and that's where those deleted scenes are, is in that extended version of The Reckoning. So I mean, they ended up losing some of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna get the fact that he's got a very agile, very well-educated mind. The fact that he can play chess with, anybody and not just hold his own, but win.
Right.
I mean, that's gonna definitely come to the fore. But excuse me.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, early morning.
Yeah,
Early morning.
I've got one in the morning, and I still have a project I've got to put together for a 7:30 meeting.
Yeah, I got blood work. I'll be right behind you because I got blood work. I have to be at the doctor's by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So it's like,
So they'd
Yeah.
been to the Kirk.
Well, this shows her medical, how she's, figuring out the medical bit of stuff, and her coming to head with Father Bane over.
oh,
That's scary.
yeah. God, that guy is like.
That was a good casting because that's not how I
Yeah,
pictured it.
he really was. What a religious zealot.
Yeah.
Is that actor not? Am I remembering correctly? He's actually well known for being in a comedy. Is that the actor who's in like Blackadder or something?
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know either. I can't look. What's his name? I can't remember.
That's funny. I didn't know that. I never thought about it.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I can't remember because when I started watching this, I went back and I inhaled everything because I watched all 8 of these episodes in like February, and that's when I actually really got into the show. Because, like I said, I read the books before I started watching the episodes. Because I don't think the episodes were available for streaming until February. Because I didn't have Stars at the time. So, but anyway. But yeah, that whole edition of Father Bane and that whole thing, that was interesting. I mean, I was okay with that, license, that literary license.
Right. I thought, yeah, the stuff, the way they set this episode up, that was good. As much as it got through the point of the story that it needed to get, and yet it was all fresh to us, book readers.
Yeah.
Much of it was fresh, and yet a lot of the information, even the conversations, are from the book. It's just they're done differently. So
yeah. Well, and this, I have to admit, this, now that I'm thinking about this episode, did have a lot of Jamie and Claire interaction in it.
Right.
So the first time we actually see them having a deeper level of conversation.
Yeah.
More in-depth conversations, working together towards, a goal.
Right.
So, because it was the end of this one that they did the whole kid nailed to the pillory, right?
Oh yeah, and he pulled the nail out of the ear for.
So yeah, that was them working together.
Yeah.
Which is our first example of the two of them working together as a team to accomplish something.
I could have lived with this episode without Gaelus's husband farting his way through the.
Oh, that was just disgusting.
Yeah, no, we didn't need that. It's insinuated. I didn't have to listen to it. I was cooking while I was watching it. I'm listening, just going, so. Yeah, they could have left that out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was comic relief. But anyhow, yeah. I mean, there was a lot more interaction in this one.
I thought it was funny when she fainted or pretended to faint when he pulled the nail out of the little boy's ear. And Jamie, of course, the village knows that she's the healer. And then Jamie says she doesn't like the sight of blood. That's a man's excuse for you right there.
I'll look at somebody with their arm chopped off, but this is bothering me. That was cute. It was cute.
I will say, though, I mean, I know when I first watched it, somebody does the interpretation of all the Gaelic, and it's good to hear them say words that are in the book, because I wouldn't know how to pronounce them, and yet when they say them on there, it's like, oh, okay, that's how that word is actually like a bounty, and what's the other one, a Sherrod or something like that, where they say him, and it's like, oh wow, okay.
Is that like McCreer? My heart? It looks like a CHRIDHE or something like that in the book, but it's actually McCreer. You actually don't get the CH, you get a hard C and an R, and well, it's like Slancha.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like Slancha when you look at it.
No, what is it? SLAINTE.
INTE.
Yeah. And you probably just saying it in English, it's close, but it's not quite the Gaelic pronunciation, so it's kind of interesting.
And when you look at like the spelling of Siobhan, which is that's more Irish, but it's still SIOBHAN or HBAN, and that's Siobhan.
SIOBBHAN.
Yeah.
Well, and Larry,
it's interesting.
I call her Lega. I call her
Larry
Lega
is leg
hair
hair
forever.
She's leg hair.
She's Lega hair to me.
I'm sure she had plenty of leg hair.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. That's what my mom calls her too. She calls her leg hair.
Yeah.
I think the show has softened the Leary character a little bit because they've given her a face, I guess, or human. She's obviously crushed by Jamie's inattention, because she does have a crush on him. So I don't care for the character ultimately, but I get it.
I did have sympathy.
Yeah.
For her, because this episode's the one with the scene with with the minstrel and Jamie just doesn't even hardly acknowledge it. Is this the one where he hands her the empty cup and says, "Can you take care of that?" And
they're sitting right next. He's sitting between her and Claire.
Yeah.
And he looks very dejected when he walks out with Claire.
Yeah, so I mean, I actually did have some sympathy for her in this episode, even though I knew, kind of where she was going to end up.
Have any pity for
I
her.
don't have any pity for her.
They made her even worse in this show than she was in the book.
Yeah.
That's true. They show that in the scene, Yeah. So,
anyway, but that was one of my big... the ending of these episodes with the dramatic ending and the dramatic voiceover, that's making me a little nuts. Which again, I didn't notice it the first time I watched it the first time through. But for some reason it's bothering me now. Not that it's not that I don't like the show anymore because of that, but it's something that's bugging me a little bit. So we'll see.
Just tweet Ron. That's
Just
tweet him. That's
right.
But I mean, we're going to come to that point in both sides now where there is no voiceover, where I thought there could have used voiceover,
Yeah.
Or not both sides now. Not both sides. Both sides now. Devil's Mark, second half of the first season. Devil's Mark, up at the Stones.
But you're right about that. Cliffhanger endings, because every single one of these early ones, it's always like, okay, I can get out now, and then boom, she's thwarted in the next one, and then there's some other idea of how to get out. So.
Yeah, well, and it's going to get even worse at the end of Rent into Garrison Commander. I mean, that's just such a blatant, heavy-handed cliffhanger ending between those two episodes, which we can talk about next week, because those are our two.
For next week, yeah.
No, the two for next week are The Gathering and Rent. I keep skipping over The Gathering. For some reason, I keep thinking we've done The Gathering this week, but we haven't.
No, we haven't.
It's because The Way Out and The Gathering kind of blend together for me in my mind.
Yeah. Well, she's preparing for it in The Way Out.
Yeah, and they've compressed the timeline so much in the TV show because there were weeks between when she got there and then preparing for The Gathering.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 6-8 weeks at least in preparations for The Gathering, because it's such a huge deal.
Yeah, well, they had to. You know, it's like I said, it's the confines of television where you're not guaranteed another season, so they want to pack as much information in as they can, which is why they should have left the traveling minstrel show out, but then we'll get to that when we get to that episode.
Oh my goodness.
I don't even know if I can make. I have not rewatched that episode since last year.
Yeah.
I thought it was
And actually,
funny.
Phyllis liked it, so I'm like, oh.
I liked it, so I'll be the one praising what they did. I'll have to come up with some good favor of mine.
You have to come and defend it for yourself, because
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's my favorite, but I enjoyed it.
yeah,
So, yeah,
I liked watching her dance the first time and sing, but then after that I was like, and I liked her and Murtaugh's characters kind of bonding a little bit through it, but other than that I watch it and fast forward.
Oh yeah, the whole boogie woogie bugle boy thing. I was just like, oh God, no, please, let's not hear this again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
You know, the
that was
first
my
one-
whole thing. I was just like, oh my God.
I guess that's an actual, that song she sings is an actual song.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I saw words
Yeah.
somewhere online.
Yeah.
Somebody posted it to that song.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's
My
definitely
grandma used
it's
to sing that
definitely a
song.
song, but
Yeah.
it's
Probably not using that tune.
I
but-
just got
No.
so sick of the song. Jamie will know the song. He'll know the song. We got to do the song. And I'm like, oh my God, if you mention the song one more time, I'm going to shoot myself.
He may have voluntarily gotten himself captured just so he didn't have to hear the song. He's trying to
Damn
follow
song again.
to the song.
They saved him from sticking an ice stick in his ear.
Absolutely.
I was like, oh girl,
Oh,
please. It was better
So-
when the gypsies sang it.
yeah.
Mhm.
They should have had Johnny Depp in there as the gypsy. I kept seeing
Johnny
his
Depp
face.
anywhere, man. Johnny Depp anywhere.
You know,
Me-
I wonder if this show will tap into some of that wealth of actors that are willing to do a walk-on,
Cameo?
walk-off.
That
I'm
would
just
be
thinking of all the
nice.
Scots actors that are
Mhm.
out there that
Oh,
They could
you
fill
and
it.
McGregor. We need
Huh?
you and McGregor on there. Do a
yeah.
walk.
Now see, there's one person you never see in anything that's
Mhm.
really Scots.
Yeah.
What was that Disney thing? The cartoon Brave. Every Scots except Ewan McGregor and Sean Connery were in that voice.
Sean
And I
Connery, no thank
So I
Yeah.
thought, what in the heck? Why? I mean, they had everybody, but
Well, the problem is, after this next season, we're going to leave Scotland.
but there's still Scots involved because
Yeah,
Yeah.
They decrease in numbers dramatically.
they do, you know.
I mean,
So they have to cram them in now somewhere. What's
Well, that's
his
what I'm
face,
saying is
too?
they're doing the last 2 episodes of season 2 now, the last block.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what they're shooting
Robert
right now.
Carlyle. We
There
can have
you go.
Mr. Gold come from Once Upon a Time. He'll end up in Outlander.
Yeah. Of course, then again, even Game of Thrones doesn't really like stunt cast, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I
They
don't even want
probably
to get
won't.
into Game of Thrones now. All these Jon Snow teasers.
Yeah. Well, I haven't ever watched it, so
You
I
haven't?
haven't
Oh,
either.
know.
I do. I love it. I love it.
I
Yeah,
kind of want to
there.
start watching Black Sails, but
Oh, I
tried.
tell you what, you talk about a show that when I was watching the marathon last year, I don't watch it religiously, but they had the marathon on before they were starting not this season, but last season. And there's a plot line in there that absolutely blew me away.
wow.
I was just kind of like, what? What? Why is Flint? What? This is why Flint is the way he is? It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
just
watched-
catch little
yeah.
bits and pieces of it. So I'd like to go back from, the very first episode and start watching it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stop the broadcast so that in case I may mention something about Black Sails that people who are trying to watch it and catch up don't Yeah, they won't get pissy. So next week, same time, Monday night, 8 o'clock, only 2 episodes. We're doing episodes 4 and 5. And like I said, next week, hopefully it won't be quite so nutso, and I'll maybe have a couple of pretty pictures or something to look at. So.
I'm watching on TV right now, so
Yeah.
I'm looking for that scene.
Watching it without any sound.
All right, I'm going to stop the broadcast. See you next week.
All right. Bye.